All right, these are my three audience members. They're all people who live in my learning community. So whether you're going on a hike or taking a walk through the woods, walking your dog, species of plants and animals are constantly around you. Trees, grass, deer, bugs, everything that you see that's living around you plays a vital role in the strength of the ecosystem. A lot of these species, however, are very, very sensitive to changes, such as climate change, pollution, and other things like that, water control, water quality. All of these things play a vital impact on how species thrive and how species live. Some of these keystone species, or species that are very susceptible to change and are really good markers of the strength of an ecosystem, are on the decline in many different parts of the world for a multitude of different reasons. And this is a very, very pressing concern. Whether it's concerning the depletion of the ozone layer or the increasing global temperature, these species are slowly disappearing, which is a very, very stark problem for a lot of the ecosystems around the world. A lot of things can be thrown off balance, and a lot of species of plants and animals are either dying as a result or overgrowing as a result. Three different keystone species, the fig wasp, the ochre sea star, and the black-bellied salamander, are all vital keystone species that propose and show a multitude of different reasons why they're so important. Concerning the fig wasp, one of the most impressive coevolution bugs that we've ever seen recorded, has been on the decline recently because of the increase in global temperature and the fig tree dying off due to a multitude of different warm temperature diseases. A lot of different diseases for plants and animals thrive in warmer conditions, and the increase in mean global temperature has depleted the resources that the fig tree is able to use and has depleted the efficiency of the fig tree in producing fruit. The fig wasp, according to the Encyclopedia of Ecology, is a key pollinator for the species of fig tree that are found both agriculturally and in the wild. Agricultural and domestic fig growing as a resource for markets and for consumption for humans is a very, very big industry. But recently, the tanking in species diversity and number of species for the fig wasp have depleted the overall amount of figs that are being processed and the quality, which overall depletes the species and increases the price of these things. The coevolution of these two species is a very, very valuable educational resource for a lot of different reasons. One, it's one of the few documented experiences in which a wasp and a tree or a plant and an animal have co-evolved with one another to live and to better one another. This symbiosis is essential as a learning resource to show how different species interact with one another and simultaneously to provide consumption for economies and for human beings in eating a fig itself. Moving forward, the black-bellied salamander is an extremely sensitive species to pollution and to water quality. According to the University of Missouri, the osmotic barrier that the salamanders have for skin is really, really susceptible to pollution change. So whether that's an increase in the toxicity of water or the increase in temperature of the water, the salamander is extremely sensitive to these changes. An osmotic barrier, I drew a diagram here, is essentially a semi-permeable membrane, or a wall, for instance, in this case, the salamander's skin, that transmits water and other nutrients through it. So a salamander retains hydration and gains nutrients from its skin itself. Instead of eating or drinking water, it'll absorb it through its skin to remain hydrated and well-fed. If an increase in pollutants, seen at the bottom as the green increase, what happens is all of those pollutants are ingested into the salamander itself as well, which is extremely detrimental and ends up killing off a lot of the species or causing them to migrate away. This pollution is extremely bad because not only does it deplete a key species of fauna in the ecosystem that is responsible for eating bugs and keeping other local populations in check, it's also extremely detrimental because if this species dies off, it's another extinct species, which is extremely bad for everybody else. The last species is the ochre starfish, or sea star, excuse me, which is found in the intertidal zones, or the tide pools, of many different places around the coast of the US and around the coast of the world. These sea stars are vital in keeping local algae and plant populations in check that would otherwise run amok in tide pools, which are very, very susceptible to change, and is also a key species that is noted to move away from extremely warm watered zones and to move back into the ocean where it is cooler near the bottom if temperatures increase. For instance, if I were to take a Tupperware full of water and I were to set it right in front of a window, as the sun comes out and as it heats up, that water tends to evaporate. If it were to be a warmer day, or if there's more sunlight that comes through the window, that water is going to evaporate quicker. It's the same way for a lot of the intertidal zones, or the tide pools that are present in the zones of a lot of the coastal line for the U.S. If the temperature increases or the ozone depletes and a lot of that sunlight is coming through, the animals that live in those tidal pools have less likely of a chance to survive, or the tide pools dry up far quicker, which can be detrimental to a lot of the species. Overall, a lot of these different keystone species are integral parts of ecosystems and are really, really representative of how strong an ecosystem can be or how polluted an ecosystem can be. There's a double-edged sword, essentially, in maintaining these types of things, because a lot of human interaction has caused a decline in the overall biomass or how often we see these different issues or these different plants and animals. A lot of human efforts, including global climate rise or pollution of water and soil, have led to a decline in a lot of these species, which is extremely bad and is something that we should be fixing. Next time you're on a hike or you're going out to walk, make sure you look for a lot of these things and ask, if you don't, what can I do to help?